Welcome, Wildcats, to an instant reaction show of sorts on Weber State Weekly. I'm your host, Colby Peterson, and we're going to be talking a little bit about volleyball. It's been a good week for Wildcat Volleyball, and so we have with us, joining us again for some of these instant reaction shows throughout the season, we have Hannah DeYoung. Hannah, thanks for taking a little bit of time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah. And we also have a new face. We have Amanda Varney, who former player and also has been a part of the broadcasting crew. Amanda, thanks for taking some time to analyze these matches with us on Weber State Weekly.
Yeah, anytime. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're really excited. So we're going to be talking a little bit about the matches that we saw this week. So we had Friday morning, I guess it started at 11, ended up in the afternoon. A Friday morning match against Seton Hall out of the Big East. Then Saturday, 2 matches where we faced the North Dakota Fighting Hawks, a former conference opponent of sorts. I don't know if it's necessarily a rival. You ladies can tell me because you played them. And then that afternoon or that night, taking a quick trip up to Logan to say what's up to the Utah State Aggies and getting a dub there. So currently 3-0 on the season thus far. So
a great way to start the season.
I mean, it really is, right? Like, great way to start. Good non-conference schedule. This is probably one of the toughest we've seen in a while. But I was also going to add, we're going to be talking straight to the man himself, Head Coach Jeremiah Larsen, and he's here on the broadcast now. So I think let's bring him on. What do you ladies say?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So joining us now, head coach of women's volleyball up at Weber State University, Jeremiah Larsen. Coach, thanks so much for taking a little bit of time to chat with us on Weber State Weekly.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're really excited. Big week for you folks. Started the non-conference schedule, came away with 3 dubs. What more could be said? This team, I keep saying it on Twitter, best team in school history, man. Like, gritty team, especially that W up in Logan last night, taking all the way to 5 sets. But Wildcats came out, left no doubt in that 5th set and won 15-10 to take the 3-2 win up in Logan. Talk to us a little bit about that, Coach. Let's start there. I mean, had taken the 2-1 lead, ended up losing the 4th set, fairly closely. What was the mentality going into that 5th set? Can you talk us a little bit about that before it started?
We have a pretty gritty group, as both these ladies know. I mean, they played with this group of girls, and they know who they are. And so there wasn't a lot of panic or concern. It was just, hey, we're going to go be a little bit better at a few things. I thought our serving kind of let up in game 4 just a little bit, which allowed them to run their offense, which is a pretty dynamic offense. They got some kids that can really kind of bomb the ball, and they run with tempo to the pins and really cause a havoc into your blocking system. So we decided we're going to go serve a little bit harder and try to get them out of system a little bit more, and we got fortunate enough to do that in game 5, and they played loose, and Ryland Adams just kind of stepped up like she's been doing for the last 3 seasons and kind of took over the match from there.
Yeah, definitely a big show, I think, from that senior leadership that we've talked about a fair bit this season. But I wanted to pull in Hannah and Amanda here. Questions for Coach Larsen as we talk a little bit more about that Utah State match.
I mean, Hannah was there, right? I saw you, Hannah.
Yes, I was there. You kind of mentioned it a little bit, just how fast Utah State's offense was, and how it kind of caused a lot of problems with our blocking. That was something that I noticed. And so I guess my question is just what adjustments are we going to make for teams in the future? Because we know there's teams in the Big Sky that run, they're kind of notorious for running a fast offense to the pins, kind of like Utah State did. So just, I guess, talking about some of the adjustments that we can make for blocking.
Yeah, it wasn't just so much Utah State's ability to run fast to the pin. It was that disguised with their middle attack. I mean, their middle attack and their go and their gap set are very similar. Like, it was really hard to read from the two. And so making decisions quickly was something that we were struggling with. So we had to make some strategic plays out there to try to take some tendencies away that they like to do. Sam kind of came up big in game 5, got into some hard cutbacks that Corinne Larson and Kennedy Boyd were hitting. And that allowed Emma to go be good on the go and just try to touch it. And that's what we kind of ended up doing. We ended up transitioning a lot of digs and not really getting stuffs, but just slowing it down, getting a quality touch so we could push the ball up to the net so we could do our job and keep them on their heels. And so Sam did an amazing job at the net blocking wise to just kind of slow stuff down and give us the ability to kind of just go take that middle one-on-one, which is really hard to do. As you know, Hannah, like trying to take a middle one-on-one at the level that they were running it, it's a tough thing to do, but she was able to do it, jumped into some hard cross-body shots and kind of disrupted what they wanted to do in game 5. And we got the lead and never let go.
Yeah, I'd say Sam Shees led all blockers in that match, eight blocks at the net. So absolutely dominant performance by her. Good job getting up there and keeping the ball on the other side of the net. Amanda, you have a question for Coach Larsen?
Well, like Hannah said, like our block definitely had they saw a lot of quickness last night, especially with the gap in the 2 and the 3 that Utah State for sure ran that like really well, and it left Emma out. But teams like that, like I know SAC runs a super quick offense, but I think that the defense in the back row did a really good job adjusting to those one touches, and I think that how are we going to get it so they keep up that high level of defense throughout the season, like when they see teams like SAC and Portland that run those really fast offenses, because they did a really good job last night.
And we're going to see some people this weekend that are going to do the same. So I think that's the beauty of what we try to do in our scheduling is, okay, we're going to go schedule a bunch of kids, a bunch of programs that run some things that we'll see at a really high level that we'll see in our gym, whether it be Sacramento State or Northern Colorado, who runs a notorious fast offense and gives us fits. And so we're going to have to reinstill our principles. Liana Woodley's a pretty new middle blocker, so she's going to have to learn some stuff, and she's kind of learning on the fly right now. When Hannah got in here, we got the wonderful opportunities to play like Houston Baptist and Houston and teams that weren't quite as dynamic. And so the learning curve was pretty, we could kind of take our time and help you develop, and Liana's getting thrown in the deep end right now. And so it's going to take some time for her to kind of get used to that speed and see what those setters are doing and staying true to the principles that we do with our blocking. And at the end of the day, we don't have to stuff balls. We, like what you said, Amanda, our back row is very good, and we're probably the best passing team we've ever had. I mean, we gave 25 aces to our opponents and only gave up 4 reception errors on the whole weekend, which is just unheard of. And so to know that we can rely back on our serve receive, rely back into our defense and our offense, will hopefully fill in some holes where maybe our block is kind of lacking right now, and hopefully we can catch up with them in the next 2 or 3 weeks with the level of competition that we get to see and be ready for when we play Sacramento State the first weekend, and Portland State, who I think is a really nice volleyball team. Portland State's going to be a really tough draw the first match of our conference season.
So Maya, looking a little bit earlier in the day yesterday against North Dakota, the Flying Hawks or the Fighting Hawks, I mean, it seems like service aces were the story of the day. They had some trouble digging, they had some trouble passing especially, and I think ended up with 11 aces in that match. Talk to us a little bit about it. Was that just luck, or was that taking advantage of some of the things that you wanted to see in their particular defense?
Yeah, I think luck comes into play with everything that we do just a little bit, but there were some things we wanted to do. We've kind of amped up our serving just a little bit. We put a lot more emphasis in the last couple months, especially towards the end of last year and now the first couple weeks of this season. And so so it was nice. Danny Ney, I think, averaged like over 1 ace per set this weekend, which is just unheard of. I mean, if she continues that course, she'll break like a national record in aces, like she's going to be a rock star this season. So I don't expect that to happen, of course, but we did a really nice job of hitting space and not people, which is a big deal for us, hitting it flat and making it float. And so really kind of gave them fits, which made our job a lot easier on the offensive side.
Yeah. Ladies, any questions for Maya on that North Dakota match before I wrap this one up talking about Seton Hall?
Not necessarily any questions, but it's fun to see kind of a flip-flop where when we were playing, North Dakota was kind of a powerhouse, and now, like we've worked hard over these years, and now like we're looking really good, and so it's kind of fun to go beat up a team that used to kind of beat us up a little bit. So no question necessarily, but it's just kind of a fun thing to see. So
yeah, we had some fun battles in North Dakota. I mean, missed pancakes and everything. So we got to be fired up that we finally got some redemption this weekend.
Yeah, I think it was Brandon Garside during the broadcast on ESPN Plus, which, by the way, looks really, really great, folks. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to take a look at some of these matches on ESPN Plus, but I got to say, it feels like it's a little bit, I mean, it's the next level above what Pluto TV was giving us. So glad we made that transition as a conference up to ESPN Plus. But I think Garside in the broadcast that against North Dakota, I think it was like 0 for 10 overall or something like that. It was just really tough opponent to just get a dub against. And so to finally just not just beat them, but beat them in straight sets to sweep them out of the Swenson Gym had to be a nice feeling, not only for this current group of Wildcats playing volleyball, but also for alumni like Hannah and Amanda to be like, yeah, that's right. We got you this time.
Yeah, if I remember right, Amanda, that was your last game, huh? We played North Dakota in the conference tournament, and I think Amanda hit.
That was my last game.
Yeah, I think Amanda hit that one big middle for them. I can't remember her name off the top of my head, in the face or something like that. That was a good time. So some good matches against those guys, really competitive, and finally get over the hump and get one on them. For sure made me feel good about life.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Well, Maya, before we let you go, we do want to ask a little bit about the Seton Hall matchup because this was the season opener. Obviously, we had the purple and white scrimmage on Monday night in the Swenson, which was really fun, by the way. If you missed that, you lose because it was a lot of fun to be there. But Seton Hall coming in on Friday morning, Big East opponent, the Pirates, maybe not exactly in the top of the Big East, but still, a formidable opponent coming from a big conference. Talk to us a little bit about going into that match. How did it feel? Did you all feel ready? Like, let's go, we're ready to do this, having just played in the spring? Or, I mean, we're still working through some things. Talk to us a little bit about going into that matchup.
Yeah, I think we were ready. To be honest, I didn't think we played very well against that team, against Seton Hall at all. I think our passing was decent, but our offense was stagnant. For sure, our blocking systems were a mess. The thing that kind of kept us alive is our serving. I think we had 11 aces against that team, 5 against North Dakota, and 10 against Utah State. And so I think overall, that was probably my biggest disappointment of the day, or from the whole tournament, was that first game. And we just didn't play very smoothly at all. We got better as the tournament went on. I don't know what it was, but for sure our kids were even like, when I went back in the locker room, they were kind of, I don't want to say disappointed, but not satisfied with the level that we played at that time. And so, but we got better, and that's what mattered. And we got to be, a win's a win, whether it's pretty or ugly, we don't care. But we definitely learned a lot about ourselves from that game, probably more than all the other ones. Utah State was just kind of the icing on the cake, just a really competitive volleyball game by both sides. And I went into game 5 against Utah State going, if we win or lose, I don't care. Like, this has been awesome for both sides to really go compete. But Seton Hall was probably the biggest disappointment of all the games this weekend.
Yeah, like you noted, Maya, the blocking number there, Seton Hall with 8, Wildcats with just 2 in that match. So it seems like things picked up in the subsequent matches. And then, like you said, aces, you're right, 11 aces in that match. Whereas, against North Dakota, that took a little bit of a dip with 4, but still, those service aces.
The difference is we put North Dakota on their heels. Like, they could not find any system and rhythm in that one. So although the aces might not come out pretty against North Dakota, I thought we were really good hitting the ball against them. So,
yeah. Hannah or Amanda, anything to ask Coach Jeremiah Larsen before we wrap up this interview?
How are you guys prepping for your games this week? You guys play BYU and Michigan this week?
BYU, Michigan State, and Dixie State for a couple more months, I guess. I don't know what that school's going to be called for in the future, but we'll take Dixie State right now. That's right. The Trailblazers for now. And so, yeah, BYU is a monster. We all know that. They're really, really good. And so having the opportunity to go compete against one of the nation's best, and then go to compete against a Big Ten tournament. I've got to go watch film on BYU after I'm done with you guys, and hopefully at the end of the day, you guys know this. It's not about whether we win; it's whether we compete and make life difficult for the other team, and are we going to get better from it? And so, hopefully, playing against this level of competition is going to make us stronger for our campaign in the Big Sky, so we can kind of finish well in November, because it's not about being good now, it's about being good at the end of the season.
Good call. Like you said, Maya, we know that Brigham Young is probably one of the top teams in the state, and if not in the nation. Good team, playing on their own floor down in Provo in a tournament that they're hosting. That should be a tall order. Hannah, any questions for Coach Jeremiah Larsen before we wrap this one up?
I don't have any questions necessarily, but just want to say good luck to you guys. And it's fun to see you guys competing against big schools. You know, it's really exciting, and it's fun to be a part of as a fan and as someone who played there previously. And so just we're proud of what your girls are doing and you as a coaching staff. And it's fun to say that we're proud to be Wildcats. So good job to you guys, and good luck this weekend with your season.
Thanks, guys. And we're doing this because of what you guys built. So you two, we're standing on your shoulders right now. We couldn't be doing this without what you did to kind of get us there. So you got two good kids here, and we're proud that they're Wildcats, and we're just trying to make them proud to continue to be Wildcats.
Maya, I did want to ask you, going down to Provo this weekend, your alma mater, the place where you got started in volleyball, and a lot of fond memories down there in Provo. Talk to us a little bit about your emotions and heading into the Smith Fieldhouse this weekend to play against your alma mater, who you know is going to be a tough fight. Talk to us about your mentality and how you're gonna kind of make that balance of trying to do everything that you can against some of the top competition in the country.
You know, it's been so long since I've been down there, but there are memories. I remember when I took Hannah down there for the first time. I can't remember what year that was, Hannah, Amanda, but just walking into the field house, the smell brings back a ton of memories about playing there, and being in front of 6,000 people is kind of a special, surreal experience for a player. And so it's a special place for sure. I met my wife just 10 feet from Smith, from the court, you know, from the Smith Fieldhouse court inside the track. And so that was where the first time I met her. And so there's a lot of fun memories and where I've been, but for the most part, those are memories, and we're making memories here. And that's what my main focus is to make memories, what it's like to be a Wildcat and enjoy my time competing there, because that's all I ever did there was compete, and that was my greatest memory, and I want to keep on having those competitions in that gym.
Yeah, definitely. We wish you the best of luck down there this weekend. Like Amanda noted, a couple of tough opponents this weekend. Of course, Brigham Young, they'll be hosting that tournament down in Provo, but also a Big Ten opponent in Michigan State. And then finally, DSU, the Trailblazers, whatever we choose to call that school in the future. We'll be facing the Trailblazers. It's going to happen. So Head Coach Jeremiah Larsen, thanks for taking a little bit of time to join us here and talk a little bit about a great week, a great week for Wildcat Volleyball.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you. All right. Now we're gonna go and we're gonna talk a little bit about this. Want to thank Coach Jeremiah Larsen again for doing that with us. We really appreciate him. But I wanted to start chronologically here, ladies, and talk a little bit about the Seton Hall match. Of course, like Maya noted, it was maybe a little bit difficult on the front of the net to have that opportunity to block the ball, but also Seton Hall was really struggling with, those service aces. So, I mean, looking at the stat sheet, what sticks out the most to you? Amanda, I want to start with you.
For sure, their aces, that 11-1, I think is a big standout, obviously. One thing also that I noticed is, for both teams, the hitting percentage in the first set for both of them was under 200. I mean, Weber's was a little bit closer, but usually I feel like Weber is in the 200s plus in the hitting department in the stats there. So I think that is kind of like what Maya said. They kind of struggled offensively. who knows if that was because passing was off a little bit or if things were just off just a tad. You never know kind of what's going on with the team in that kind of situation. Emma Mangum, she led in kills with 14, which it's always awesome to see a right side go out and have a lot of kills. It definitely means that you have a great widespread offense, but I honestly think it was kind of a slow night for Rye and Danny with only 10 and 9 kills between the two of them. I think that's kind of what made it slow for them. They had their two big outside hitters that were kind of on the low end of kills than they normally are. Normally they're putting up 12 to 15. So I think, like Maya said, it was just a little slow offensively. They were obviously able to pull it out, but I think that's kind of what stood out to me for them.
Yeah, like you noted, a big match from Emma Mangum, which is good to see because obviously, I mean, there's going to come a day when, you know, this is a system where players graduate, they move on, and seeing Emma Mangum kind of step up and have a larger role this year going to be really, really exciting, especially when Danny Nay was getting it done from the service line, right? 11, I think she had 7 aces in this match, which was just crazy. I think it matched her career high. It was her new career high because previously she'd only had 6, but 7 service aces in this one. But in terms of kills, Emma Mangum led the way against a couple of, you know, all conference players in Rylan Adams who had 10, and Danny Nay ended up with 9. So good on Emma Mangum for 14 with 14 kills. Hannah, what about you? Anything stick out from this stat sheet on Seton Hall before we move on to talk a little bit more about the North Dakota match?
Yeah, I was actually going to mention Emma, kind of like what Amanda said. You know, with Caroline leaving, she was a good offensive weapon for us last year, and so we kind of needed someone to step up a little bit this year to take, you know, that percentage of our offense that Caroline was, and now be able to fill that hole without her. And I think it was nice to see Emma kind of step up a little bit and take on more of an offensive responsibility without Caroline there and without being able to rely on her to kind of take some of the load. It was, yeah, I think just really exciting to see how much Emma's improved, even just since the spring. So I think she had a nice night. And so I think that that's a positive thing that we can take away from the Seton Hall game is just that Emma has improved and she's worked hard and you can see it's paying off. And so I think that's exciting for sure. And then, of course, the aces, like Amanda said, to have 11 aces in a 3-set match is a huge deal. And I mean, it's helping us in multiple ways. Of course, if you're getting aces, that's free points. But then the ones that don't result in aces that are still tough serves are resulting in out-of-system plays, and that's going to help our blockers out a lot too. It's going to make their job a lot easier, and they're going to be able to make good reads because we're serving tough. So for sure, I think some positives to take away from the Seton Hall game where maybe it wasn't our best are going to be the fact that we're a tough serving team and the fact that Emma's improved a ton, and it's nice that we have a diverse offense that we can set multiple options and rely on multiple people. And if maybe our so-called stars are having a bit of an off night, like that's okay because we have more than just one good hitter on this team. And so I think that's exciting as well.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I think you're right, Hannah, in that it shows the depth of this Wildcat squad, because I keep saying it online. This is the best team in school history. Like, my goodness, you just look around at the names and what they've accomplished already moving forward. But one thing that sticks out to me is Maya noted that it was a difficult game at the net, ended up getting outblocked at 8-2 by Seton Hall, but newcomer Liana Woodley led all blockers with 2 blocks. And so I was just like, wow, that is that's good to see a young talent like herself just kind of step up and take an opportunity when she can get it, because I mean, Seton Hall didn't score more than 20 points the entire match. That's fine. But overall, good to see that already people are showing up, getting their hands dirty, trying to have an impact on this Wildcat squad, even though it's laden with senior talent. So now, ladies, any parting thoughts with Seton Hall before we move on to talk a little bit about North Dakota and anything that we haven't talked about already here?
No, I think it's just exciting to beat a team from a nice conference like Seton Hall. They're not a bad team by any means, and so to get that win is exciting.
Yeah, and I think that, you ladies have spent a lot of time with Jeremiah, and I think that a thing that needs to happen very soon is we need a volleyball T-shirt that says "nice," because that's a word that Maya uses all the time, and so do you all. So it's like, dude, that's the word for the volleyball program at Weber State. Nice. So, all right, let's talk a little bit about the Fighting Hawks now, because like you said, beating Seton Hall was good. Was sort of expected, I think. I expected us to win that match. But then the Fighting Hawks came to town on Saturday morning to take on the Wildcats in the Swenson. And that we should have noted that after the Wildcats beat Seton Hall, 17-game win streak in the Swenson. And that continued on into Saturday morning against North Dakota, now 18. Amanda, talk to us a little bit about that stat sheet. Anything stand out to you from that match that gives us hope for getting things together and getting this team rolling as we take on some tough opponents this weekend?
I know we kind of talked about a lot of the aces that we had against Seton Hall, and that's great and everything. But of course, like the aces went down against North Dakota. But one thing Hannah mentioned is that just because we're not getting aces doesn't mean that it's not a good serve. I think that's probably one reason why we did so well against North Dakota, and Maya even said that we had them on their heels. I think that our serve kept them out of system a lot, and when you're out of system, you're more than likely to go to the pins, and the pins are a lot easier to block than if they're running quicks in the middle and you've got the pins. So I think that's kind of what shut North Dakota down, was the fact that we were just serving tough and that it kept them out of system, which is a huge thing that Maya stresses at practice, not only for Weber State to practice out of system balls, but getting the other team to be out of system, because that just makes things easy for you on the defensive end. It's a lot easier to worry about blocking one person and know that it's your only person you have to worry about instead of two or three. So I think that's what we did is in keeping North Dakota on their heels for sure.
Yeah, and I think, if the Wildcats, if anybody watching is not, super well versed in volleyball strategy, what Amanda's telling us here is super helpful, especially to somebody like me, saying ball's getting closer to the pin, which means, hey, it's easier to block because they can only go one direction, right? They can't go both ways on you in the middle like they could. You're over here on the side, like, oh wow, that's difficult. Another thing I noticed from the stat sheet was that North Dakota had a hard time with assists. Their assist numbers were pretty low. They were only at 25 to the Wildcats 37. So I think what you're saying definitely true, Amanda, where the Wildcats were sending the ball and making it really difficult for them to get going, and it just led to maybe some poor possessions on their side, a lot of free balls where they're sending it back over just out of desperation because they're not getting set up, and it gives the Wildcats an opportunity to capitalize. Hannah, what about you? North Dakota finally getting over the hump there. Anything from that match stick out to you before we move on to the Utah State match?
Yeah, I think I'll just point out the overall hitting percentage as a team. We were able to hold North Dakota to hitting .054, which is a huge deal. And to have them like hitting negative one of the sets against us is pretty exciting. And then for us to hit .321 as a team is also a big deal. And I think, not only did North Dakota struggle passing, but I feel like defensively, Ash was, distributing our offense really well. And I mean, we had Rylan do a nice job for us. Sam went off to have 12 kills, 15 attempts, no errors, and like hitting 800. That's huge. And so, I mean, middle blockers, are supposed to be around that 300 mark. And so for Sam to hit 800, that's big time by her. And then, of course, Emma came out and had another nice night for us as well. And so I think that just shows that Ash was able to distribute our offense really well, and it kind of, I think, tore apart North Dakota's block a little bit. And so we were in one-on-one situations, and because we're in one-on-one situations, that makes us really hard to defend with, North Dakota's block and as well their back row defense. And I think that's why you see that we were so successful as a team with our hitting in that match. So good job to Ash. Ash is such a smart setter and just always sets, the right person at the right time. And so hats off to her, and then hats off to our hitters for taking the opportunities she was given them.
Yeah, I agree with you, Hannah. Sam Sheese was just absolutely incredible in that match. You could tell she made her presence known. 12 kills, led the way with 6 blocks. That led all blockers in the match, just at absolutely outsized impact. And then, like you said, hitting 886, I think is the number. But yeah, hitting above 800 no blocker, like, geez, man, like they just don't have an answer for her. And credit, like you said, goes to Ashlyn Power for getting a lot of those set up, but also just veteran leadership once again, making things happen against teams who are struggling. Just incredible. Amanda, any parting thoughts on North Dakota before we move on to our final match of this session, Utah State?
Not that I can think of. I think that it was just a great win for the team overall because Ash was there my senior year at the conference tournament when we played against them as the last game of that season. So I think that even though that was her first season ever playing against North Dakota, I think that this win was just just as big of an accomplishment for her as I think it is for Hannah and I. I think we're both super proud that they could beat a team that used to kind of beat up on us a lot. So
yeah, love to see it. And I'm, like I said, especially for you ladies who having played against these folks and having had them on many occasions to get over that hump and, root for former teammates as they just steamrolled their way through them in the Swenson. Got to be a good feeling. So now let's talk about the final match, of which, Hannah, you were in the building for this one. This was a big one. After taking care of business against the Fighting Hawks in Ogden that morning, the Wildcats took a trip up to Logan to take on the Utah State Aggies in their gym. And wow, this was a back and forth match. Ladies, initial thoughts from this one, because man, it was a grinder with the Wildcats winning in 5.
Yeah, I think just with Utah State, it's a fun rivalry for us. When Amanda and I were, new, it was very one-sided towards Utah State. They would kind of beat up on us quite a bit, and then by the time I was like a junior and a senior, we were beating up them quite a bit, and it was totally just one-sided, either to them or to us. And so it's fun to see, that Utah State has improved as well, and that it's kind of a good rivalry battle again. And I think that was just fun to see again, to have Utah State not just be a wash game for us anymore, but to kind of see them fight back a little bit. And I think that we fought as well. And so, yeah, it's just a fun rivalry game for us.
Amanda, what about you? Initial thoughts from that Utah State matchup? Like you said, it's been a long rivalry and one that has kind of teeter-tottered a little bit, but this match was pretty close.
I loved watching this match. It definitely the 5th set always gives you a little bit of anxiety. Like it could go either way. It's always a matchup for anyone during the 5th set. But I definitely agree with Maya. Like I think Rylan came out and just said, we're not losing this game, and took matters into her own hands. And I think she rallied her teammates too, to get them to push and fight for that game. Because I remember sitting there watching the 5th set and thinking, all right, this is great. We're in a great spot at, I think it was 10-4 or 5 at some point, and thinking, all right, we're there. I also want to give out major props to Utah State. They did awesome. They're outside Chrissy Frank. She had 21 kills. That's a huge number for any outside. I mean, I remember hitting numbers like that and having days like that, and it's just exhausting. And to go out and to keep fighting for your team in that 5th set is huge. So props to her for going out and fighting as well. I just think overall it was a really good match to watch.
Yeah, I mean, very competitive overall. And like you said, when you get to that fifth match, I mean, we're in overtime basically, and it's anybody's match, right? But I was really impressed, and Jeremiah used a word that I think definitely fits this team going into it. He talked about the team being gritty. I think this team was definitely showed that grit in that fifth set, because it was unclear. They had taken a 2-1 lead, had lost the fourth set, had been pretty close, had clawed back to a 22-20, deficit, but then ended up losing 25-20 in that one. So it was like, okay, what's going to happen? How are they going to respond? And they definitely responded in the fifth set to take the match and just show who they were. Just incredible. Absolutely incredible. I wanted to ask a little bit about, you all mentioned that, this is a rivalry that had gone both ways, but once again, that service from the service line, just incredible for the Wildcats. 10 aces in this match, in one that went kind of back and forth. I mean, do you ladies think that this is going to be a trend that we're going to see as the season wears on, that we can just expect to see absolutely dynamite service from the service line throughout the season?
Yeah, I think so. I think, like Ash and Danny were both good servers last year, and they're good servers again this year. And so I think that's just a testament to who they are as players. I think they're always going to be tough servers for us. And so I don't think it was totally just like a lucky weekend for us as far as serves. I think we are a good serving team, and I think that's something that we'll continue to see throughout the entire season. I do think that was kind of where we won the game, honestly, was our serving. I think, our kills were pretty even, and our blocks were exactly even, 10 and 10. Assists were exactly even, 59-59. And then we actually got outdug, 59 digs to 54 digs for us. And so, I mean, to be right there in all the categories, but then to have that huge difference of aces for us leading with 10 and for Utah State only with 2. I think that's kind of where we won that match a little bit, was our ability to serve tough. We talked about how fast they were running their offense, and I've touched on that a little bit in this as well, but the tougher we serve, the less options they have to set, and that makes it a lot easier for our block. And so I think we at times struggled with our block against those guys just because they had 3 options available. But then I think we started serving tough, really, especially towards the end of that matchup with Utah State. And that's kind of where you saw Weber State take control a little bit. We were able to get a lot more touches on blocks, kind of like what Maya was saying. Sam was able to get her hands on a lot of things, especially in that 5th set. I feel like we did a good job kind of putting a clamp on their outside hitters. And so it's nice to see us make adjustments, and nice to see us do the things we needed to be successful against these guys.
Yeah, like you said, Sam had 8 blocks in that match. Obviously very important. But one thing that I think the difference maker I felt in this match was Rylan Adams really got going. And not to say that she was in the first 2 matches, but in this one, it really felt like she had that All-American impact. Especially, I think that final kill to win the match, you could tell that she was fired up. She was ready to go, and she wanted to win. Any other shout outs, ladies, on from this Utah State match before we wrap up our broadcast?
Excited to see what this week and the rest of the season brings. I think that they had a great starting weekend against some pretty good teams, and so I'm excited to see how the rest of the season is going to go for them.
Definitely. Hannah, what about you? Any shout outs before we wrap this one up?
Yeah, I think we've just talked about how gritty this group is, and how they just kind of put their heads down and go to work, and it's not, they don't do it for themselves. They're doing it for, their teammates. And I think that's what makes this group so special, is everything they do is for everyone else, and we're just a selfless team, and they truly are excited for each other and love each other. And I think that's part of what makes us so successful. And so really just hats off to everyone. Hats off to, the new girls who are here and they're doing their best. They're learning fast and buying into what this program means. And I think they're doing a nice job. And then, of course, hats off to all of our seniors who've been here for a while. I think they're continuing the things you've seen them do in the past. And I think that's exciting. And it's exciting to see what they'll do this weekend against those big teams that we've mentioned.
Yeah. So big matches coming up this week. So like we noted, folks, the Wildcats will be taking a trip down to Provo for a tournament. That first match will be on Thursday, 7 p.m. against Brigham Young, the home host, and a very good team, a tournament team last year, or in the spring, I should say. Friday, they'll be following that up with a match against Michigan State. That'll be at 4 p.m. And then Saturday against Dixie State, the Trailblazers, at 1 p.m. So 3 straight matches in 3 straight days. Not exactly what we had this weekend, but so a little bit of rest in between, but big opportunities for this team to show out and do their best before coming home and having another home opportunity against Utah Valley, another tournament team from the state. That match will be on September 8th, Wednesday at 6 p.m. And from what I understand, they will be handing out conference champion rings, and they will be unveiling the banner at that match. So get to the Swenson for that one. Should be a good time. So with that, ladies, I'm going to wrap up our broadcast here. Really appreciate both of you for taking some time to break down for Wildcat fans what happened this week with Weber State Volleyball and the road ahead. We also want to thank Coach Jeremiah Larsen for taking a little bit of time to chat with us about how this all went, his thoughts on it, and the road forward. So with that, I'll wrap this up like I usually do, and I'll say Weber State. Great.
Great.
Go Wildcat.